It's over, and this time there's no going back. They say all political careers end in disaster, but in this case, it's Meghan Markle's entertainment offering, which has just received its RIP. Look at this from the Salty Duchess. After just 5 days, With Love Meghan continues to plummet down the charts globally. On day 1, it was ranked number 73, day 2, 85, day 3, 98, day 4, 118, day 5, 127. The whole world is well and truly over. Meghan Markle unsuccessful as ever, to use her phrase. And what's interesting is that I wanted to be completely fair, because you may have seen some of these crazy members of the Sussex squad are actually photoshopping Meghan Markle's With Love on Netflix charts to try and trick social media that actually she's doing great. So I asked Grok to look at every single top 10 list all around the world, just to be absolutely certain that we're not missing Meghan being a phenomenon in the Philippines, for example. She's made 2 lists. Australia for 1 day on August the 29th at number 10, and Sri Lanka for 3 days, peaking at number 6 on August the 28th. And of course, the reviews just get worse by the day. According to Niall Gardner, the Times of London has given the most brutal. I watched Meghan's twaddle. It's like being waterboarded with treacle. It's no wonder the Duchess's Netflix series has been beaten in the ratings by Peppa Pig. But Peppa Pig has numbers that Meghan Markle could only dream of. So now we turn to PR sensation, and now on YouTube too, Lauren Lunn Farrow Media, who has been looking very closely into this over the past week. Lauren, there's no way back now. There's no way back for a Series 3 unless she decides to fund it herself, because this is just a waste of money.
Before that you can't, as a publicist, argue with stats. This is the worst nightmare for a PR, because you can't PR your way out of it. Now, I was wondering, had she made number 1 in any territory, and then they would kind of go down that narrative of number 1 Netflix show. But truly, there is no way back for this, because the people have spoken. This is what happens when you are disingenuous. This is what happens when you fail to connect with people, and people can see through it. They would have been so much better to have done a show that whereby it was, we've rented a cabin for a week, we're all going to have a lovely week making crafts and cooking, we know it's not real life. Oh no, they decided to ultimately look like they were replicating her life, and it just leaves viewers feeling like she is so deeply out of touch, and that is why people haven't tuned in.
100%. And I guess, Lauren, it also shows you that this whole hate-watching phenomenon, which is what Netflix and Ted Sarandos were banking on, really, the fact that we sort of care about Meghan Markle no matter what she's doing, indeed, that only goes so far, because people knew the recipe, they knew what was coming, and they didn't go back for seconds, even to point and laugh.
Yeah, I mean, you see the funniest clips online, and they're not, you're not laughing with them, you're laughing at them. And I always said, to really know how well this show has done or will do, don't look at the first day. Of course, it's going to do the best it will do, because that's when the core fan base come up. But you want to look at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th day. You want to look 1 month down the line. This, I've worked on so many projects where it starts very well, and then the PR disaster comes because it's slipping down and down. And that gets very, very hard to spin. There's no way Netflix can be happy with this either, because it's not just like people can say, well, it's just America and England that don't like her. No, it's the world can see she is not a genuine person. She is not Martha Stewart.
That's for sure. That is for sure. I think the best thing to come out of this entire series, though, is the spoofs. We have a new one, Lauren. Watch this. Can you believe that more than half of you are watching this video but not subscribed? So please do me a huge favor. Click the subscribe button now. Turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our brand new Outspoken videos.
To season 2. It's the same as season 1. Some people says it feels staged. I feel like it's perfectly staged. For my guest, I'm thinking a super easy caramelized onion tart. It only takes 4.5 hours of really slow onion cutting. So darling. I only host people I love or people with very large platforms. This is my jam. No, literally, I made jam. So sweet. Ricotta. Everyone knows ricotta is the Italian cousin of cream cheese. And then I love to sprinkle flowers on everything. My tart, my latte, my child. And for the s'mores, of course, I'm going to be using these homemade small batch vanilla bean turmeric marshmallows. You don't have any? Oh, I wouldn't even bother then. My favorite roses are Suits Syndication Mauve, Influencer Party Launch Beige, and Non-Disclosure Agreement Pink. They remind me of home. Ta-ta, darlings, it's way past our bread time, and H and I are rewatching Suits. Also now streaming on Netflix.
And actually, it's much better to watch that than the actual show.
Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. After I watched the whole series, to come on your show, because I would never have watched it otherwise, but I had to know, was it really as bad as I thought? I filmed little bits throughout my day because I'd watched it and everything was so perfect. So my daughter threw her food on the floor. There were tantrums. My kitchen was just so messy. The dog's jumping up on the table to eat stuff. And I thought, I can't be the only working mum in the country that is actually, this is reality. And it left me really cross that this is toxic broadcasting, what Netflix are doing. And if we're, looking at influencers that are slim and going hard down on them, then let's start looking at broadcasting standards, because I think this is completely offensive to every working mum out there, every mum out there, every woman running a home or man running a home. It's not acceptable. And so Netflix have to take accountability for this. The people have spoken. We do not want it. And I have seen so many people have unsubscribed from Netflix as well since they put this series out.
Exactly. When does this become actually commercially negative for Netflix? Where actually you're going to be losing, you're going to be losing more subscribers than you're going to be gaining. Canal Citadel, who I always love, had a very good take on this on X. She wrote, as predicted, With Love Meghan Season 2 has tanked worse than Season 1. From the launch and the statistics, one could tell the interest was simply not there. Yet Netflix tried to force this rubbish down their audience's throat for a second time, and the results are abysmal. Yes, Taylor Swift announcing her engagement blew that show out of the news cycle, but the truth is, even on the first day, Meghan was nowhere near the Netflix top 10. Usually in her cycle of failed business venture, Meghan at least gets to gloat for a little before the official numbers are out. But this time she went straight out, battling it out for the bottom spot. So Meg started trying to fight to stay in the 100 Netflix shows, which she fell out of on day 4. My father had an expression for that when we were in elementary school and brought back less than stellar results. He would say, so your friends went to school to learn and be the top pupils in the class, while my daughter went to school accompanying them to hold their lunch and fight to be the one before last. Indeed, if your starting spot was never near the top, how can you blame Taylor Swift for overshadowing you? What was she overshadowing? Failure? It's very clear the new first look deal given to H&M after cancelling their big money contract was a clear way to let them down easy and save face. H&M consistently failed to perform, and everyone knows that. All they have on record as performance is them bashing the royal family. Besides that, everything they put out fails. Well, and so there is no need to even remove the royal titles from H&M. They have proven that they are so inherently talentless that with or without titles, the results remain the same. Consistent and persistent failure. And Lauren, there was something I wanted to pick up on you from that post, because this is something that has been briefed by Team Montecito and being picked up by the Sussex squad. I think it is completely ridiculous. The idea that, oh, if Taylor Swift hadn't announced her engagement to Travis Kelce, then we would all have been talking about With Love Meghan. It's like, no, don't delude yourself.
It is such a cheap shot, because Taylor Swift sells out arenas all around the world, consistently goes to number one. Taylor Swift is incredibly talented. She has pivoted time and time again. She's a true artist. People love her. They resonate with her because she is real. She's vulnerable. She's not selling an image that is fake and just banking on it for money. People that are Swifties, on the whole, and I know there'll be people that are outside of this category, but they are largely making Swiftie bracelets. They are not sat at home wanting to learn how to make scam jam or anything else that Meghan made. So there is no correlation between Meghan's show bombing and Taylor Swift getting engaged. This is the most ludicrous thing I've heard, because publicity only takes you so far. If people don't like you, they are not going to tune in. That is a fact.
And then obviously, Lauren, we see this desperate need now for the Sussexes to maneuver their way back into the royal fold. And so I was outraged, actually, on Friday's show, because I was so angry with this Daily Mirror front page, which I genuinely believe was an attempt by Prince Harry to almost bully Charles into meeting. Like, he will look bad in Harry's mind if he doesn't go forward, because you'll see the quotation marks on that front page, Lauren, to meet Charles in quotation marks, because this is something that has just been briefed by Harry's team in the hope that it almost forces Charles into a meeting.
Yeah, and what I actually find really interesting is the Sussexes, they keep wanting to try and play the mainstream game, but it's all so disjointed. There is no strategy to how they're actually operating with the mainstream. So every single piece of press that, you know, we think is placed by them, it doesn't actually have any impact. And they are trying to set King Charles up to look bad. But ultimately, we've seen Harry and Meghan's track record. We have the proof of what they have said time and time again on the record, but also clearly there are heavy briefings going on sporadically off the record. And it's very, very clear to see what they're trying to do, because King Charles, it is very difficult for him to answer back to this. And also, I'm sure his team have much bigger things they are working with the press on than whether he will or won't meet Harry, because we've just seen this go round and round in circles time and time again.
Well, of course, but there is, Lauren, this other underlying issue. And Tom Sykes, who is the European editor-at-large at the Daily Beast, but also runs his own Substack, The Royalist. Now, he was on the show last week talking about this, but he's gone into it a little bit more in his latest post, and I wanted to explore it with you. It's about the fact that King Charles and William have this troubled relationship, which isn't really spoken about in the press much, because the mainstream media don't really want to come between Charles and William certainly doesn't brief against his father, even though there is some briefing from Buckingham Palace against William. But what Tom Sykes writes is that troubled relationship is making it very difficult for Charles to agree to a meeting with Harry. But first, something really important to talk to you about: scammers and spammers who are out there to ruin your life. We've all experienced more and more of those spam emails, text messages, and robo phone calls. Not only are they annoying and time-consuming to deal with, but they usually represent a gross invasion of your private information that can actually cause vast financial and reputational damage. Like, how the heck did they get your information in the first place? Well, it's likely as a result of data brokers who know everything about you, your health information, relationship status, mortgage details, and so much more, and then sell it for a profit. These data brokers can directly or indirectly expose sensitive information to bad actors, putting you at risk of identity theft. The number of data breaches worldwide rises every year. According to the annual data breach report by the Identity Theft Resource Center, it went up by 72% in 2023 compared to the previous year. This means you and your loved ones are also at constantly increasing risk of data breaches, as a growing list of data brokers hold your personal information, which is then being sold or published online without you even knowing about it. The consequences can be shocking. Health insurance companies could actually raise your rates based on your online activity. Huge loans have been taken out under people's names without them even knowing about it. Do you know scammers, this is shocking, have even started to use AI to mimic the voices of friends and family to trick victims into sending them money. These imposter scams rely entirely on the voice data they can find online. Now, while you can ask these data brokers to delete your personal information, the process takes hundreds of hours to do manually and requires repetition. So the good news is that today I have a solution for you that I use and personally endorse. Go to incogni.com/outspoken and get 60% off an annual plan. Incogni reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and handles any objections from their side. And the whole process is automated, ensuring that your data stays off the market by conducting repeated removals and taking down your data if it pops up again. This is what makes the annual subscription really advantageous. I do that plan, and it means I'm just constantly being taken off these lists. It's a simple process to you. Simply create an account, grant Incogni the right to work for you, and they will contact the data brokers on your behalf to request your personal data removal. So go to Incogni, that's incogni.com/outspoken, and you will get 60% off the annual plan right now. It could be the most important decision you make. But now, back to the show. He reports here at The Royalist, I've been working all week on this story. In this exclusive report, I will reveal that the real roadblock to a Charles-Harry conciliation is what sources say is a very strange relationship between Charles and his son and heir, William. Put simply, the big picture is that William thinks Charles's monarchy has not modernized as much as it should have. He thinks it still radiates pomposity and looks out of touch, thanks to Charles's love of uniforms, and William disdains the prioritization of duty over an individual's health and well-being. Charles thinks William is shirking the most basic element of the job, appearing in person all over the country, come rain or shine, and that his prioritization of family life over royal duty is inappropriate. But Charles is hugely afraid of making the relationship between him and William even worse than it already is. He will do this if he goes against William's strong belief that no member of the royal family should confer legitimacy on Harry by meeting him or being photographed with him, after Harry made millions by betraying the firm, quote, that's in William's sort of words or his team's words, in his memoir and TV shows. William is being guided on the issue by his own grievance against Harry, but also by domestic public opinion, which shows a large majority of the people do not believe Charles should grant Harry an audience, thereby effectively readmitting him to the royal fold. A friend of William told me this week that William believes his hand has been strengthened by the renewed disgrace of Prince Andrew, over whose fate Charles has vacillated. That friend said, William always said, just cut Andrew off completely. It's not appropriate to have an alleged sex offender breaking bread with the royal family. Charles was so desperate to be seen as embodying the spirit of Christian forgiveness that he let Andrew back in. Then the Lowney book happened. Now, is history going to repeat itself with a photo of Harry and the King having tea? It's absurd to even imagine that after what Harry said, unless there is some form of direct apology from Harry, William was right about Andrew, and he is right about Harry. Charles is weak. William is anything but weak. The friend added, ultimately, William is a loyal soldier. He respects his father's rank, and he respects his father's right to make his own decisions, and he won't make a fuss. But he thinks a Harry meeting is a terrible, terrible idea. Another family friend of the royals described the relationship between William and the King to me this week as tense, difficult, formal, and fraught, with William having a, quote, deep-seated resentment towards his father rooted in childhood trauma, a particularly pertinent issue today. Of course, it was the anniversary of Diana's death. The two men only rarely speak informally, with most of their communication mediated by their private secretaries, this source said. They do not tend to meet informally. One former Buckingham Palace staffer who maintains good contacts with current staff told me that William and the King had spent no time together at all privately when William and Kate were in Balmoral last week. The King preferred to withdraw to the privacy of his own private home, Burkhall, 8 miles from the castle on the enormous Scottish estate. The former staffer said Charles believes in tradition and continuity above all. William thinks many aspects of his father's approach are outdated, preferring a more modern interpretation of the monarchy. I asked this source about 2 rumours I have heard this year. William apparently demurred at being sent to the Pope's funeral because his soccer team Aston Villa was playing on the same day. The King was aghast when William's position filtered back, and ultimately William went. However, William was not persuaded to attend the VJ Day commemorations earlier this month, a decision that I have been told dismayed the King. The source said, both absolutely true. To William, continuing to run the monarchy as though it was still an Edwardian institution feels absurd. To Charles, his son's more casual approach can feel a lack of respect for duty and tradition. The clash, William's friends believes, also reflects a deep personal rift between father and son. William has long carried the trauma of his parents' marriage and divorce and his father's affair with Camilla. Charles, despite attempts to recast himself as an engaged father, was often absent and remains distant to his Wales grandchildren. William is doing things as differently as he can, in a living rebuke to his father. Wow. Seriously, so much to pick up on there, Lauren. The first thing is, though, I believe William is right when it comes to Harry. How on earth, after everything that has gone on, can Charles think giving Harry this legitimacy is the right thing? I think William is right. No member of the royal family should meet or be pictured with Harry until, at the very least, there is a public apology.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I don't believe King Charles is being strong enough about everything. Andrew should be out 100%. The fact that it's not as clear as that to him is really, really concerning. William is also very aware this is his father's reign. He is using this time to be with his family, to give his children a very stable upbringing with both parents present, which obviously William didn't have. Now, he, as someone slightly outside compared to Charles being the king, William can see very clearly what is at play here. And that is why he does not want Charles to meet with Harry. And it makes complete sense because ultimately it is William that will be left to pick up the pieces. I believe that, William absolutely can modernize the royal family and make them appeal to so many more people. He is doing things very carefully behind the scenes, and Charles just seems deeply out of touch. Obviously Harry is his son, but Harry has made it very, very clear about his feelings, and not just clear once. How many times do we have to see the outbursts and the, dragging the royal family's reputation through the mud? It's absolutely crazy to think that Harry could then come back into the fold, because we know that the hierarchy, it doesn't suit him and Meghan. It is not possible for them to slot in and adhere to a hierarchy because of their egos.
Absolutely. And also remembering the fact they are still trying to commercialize their relationship with the royal family right up until this day. If Charles risks this meeting going ahead, well, Harry will use that in his big pitch to Netflix about the new Princess Diana 30th anniversary documentary that he's making, because all of a sudden his commercial stock is higher. What do you make, though, of the fact that the mainstream media sort of ignore this deep-seated resentment and trouble between King Charles and Prince William, which, look, I've reported on for a very long time, and people don't necessarily want to believe it because it doesn't fit the new narrative. It certainly doesn't fit the Charles PR narrative. But we do have a king and his heir who have a very strained relationship.
Well, I think William is incredibly classy and his team are classy, and
They are.
he's very mindful of, it's almost like he's in a way living as the king and preparing for it. And when I say living as the king, I don't mean that he thinks he's king now. I mean he's completely aware of anything he does now and the repercussions down the line. He's incredibly classy, as is Catherine. And I don't think the mainstream media will report on the rift and the issues between William and King Charles, because if I'm being honest, I don't think it sells for them like Harry, like Meghan, like everything else. Because obviously they're not going to be getting content or briefings from William's team. He won't brief against the king. So I think that the mainstream media, yet again, are distorting and manipulating and filtering people's news for their agenda. Because let's remember, all mainstream media is a for-profit business which solely exists to make money. It is not there to deliver you the news that you should be getting and want to be getting. So I think it comes down to clicks. I think it comes down to what is proving to make them money.
Yeah, very good reminder of that. Bolt from the blue, royal story today, front page of at least two of the UK national newspapers. Queen Camilla revealing a previous sex attack where, as the Sun says, she whacked the groper in the ghoulies. Now, this has actually emerged from Valentine Lowe's new book. I've got some question marks over this book. I'm not going to lie. It's called Power in the Palace. It's been serialized in the Times. It's the book that's trying to make out that the late Queen Elizabeth II was a Remainer, which is just not true. I do not believe it for a single second. However, this is a very strong revelation. It seems to have come via the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. This is how Valentine Lowe put it on the BBC a couple of hours ago.
Going to Paddington, London Paddington, and some chap started groping her, and she told this to Boris Johnson when he was mayor of London, and Boris was obviously all agog as anyone would be, and said, well, what did you do next? And Camilla said, I did what my mother taught me. I took my shoe off and I whacked him in the nuts with a heel.
I mean, it's quite a line, Lauren. You have been looking into this story and you don't believe that this was a controlled leak by Camilla or by Buckingham Palace to sort of deflect from any of the current stories going on?
No, not at all. I have a palace insider who is very, very well placed. They told me that this absolutely was not from their side. They were shocked to see it. And it is very much not a narrative that they have put out there. And I think, it's really important to remember as well, the language the Sun use is atrocious. Ultimately, we are talking about a young girl and sexual assault. This is not tabloid fodder and it is not acceptable. How many girls and women that are reading this mainstream news have felt offended and like they're, if they've been through something similar, it's just tabloid chip paper. I think it's disgusting. And it's a reminder yet again of how dangerous the mainstream media are. Now, this story, if, as I believe, it hasn't come from Team Camilla, again, I think that's shocking because this is something that she went through as a young girl and we don't know the ins and outs of it. But to start, for people to start speaking about it, oh, she hit him in the nuts with a shoe. It really takes away the gravitas of what this actually is. And we know that Camilla has been deeply committed for a long time to survivors and victims of sexual abuse, domestic abuse. This is something that really is at the core of some of her work. So it would, to me, ring true that this would have happened. I just think it's such a shame that it's come out and is almost becoming a bit of a joke to the mainstream press again in terms of
like
how
a punchline, exactly. Whereas this was her story to tell. if she
Yeah.
wanted to tell it, which I think would have been powerful, but no doubt in public she would not have used that type of terminology. That was something she said in a private conversation with Boris Johnson. Very, very well put, Lauren. And I guess that distrust of the mainstream media is why, of course, we do recommend that you sign up to the Royal Uncancelled After Show here on Outspoken via my Substack. The address is www.outspoken.live. Paid monthly subscribers get first access to the Royal Uncancelled After Show in full with no advertising whatsoever, either live or on demand, whichever you prefer, via the Substack platform. Substack's so important to me. It's a community. You can message me direct. I'll always see and reply to those messages. And I think really importantly, it's a free speech platform where I'm protected from big tech cancellation and lawfare too. So I'd love you to be part of it. If you like what I'm doing on Outspoken, www.outspoken.live is the address. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.